Welcome to the second webinar in our series about Grazier Safety Series, presented in conjunction with OB Organic and Grazing BMP. I am Ros Rees, Senior Project Officer with the Agriculture Unit of Workplace Health and Safety Queensland, and I'll be your facilitator for today. Today's session will be going through the second element of the safety management system, which is risk assessment. The first webinar is now live on our website, and I'll provide that address at the end of today's session. Just a reminder that although these webinars are focusing on beef production, the principles of the safety management system can be applied to any industry sector. Please send any questions through during the webinar and we'll endeavour to answer them at the end. Please also take a few minutes to complete the survey at the end of the webinar. It provides us with valuable feedback. Any problems you have accessing this link, please let me know and I'll provide an email address for this later. We have a bit to get through today, so I'll hand you over now to your presenter for today, Brenton Garlick, who's the Senior Project Officer in Compliance and Business Engagement of Workplace Health and Safety Queensland. Thanks, Brenton.
Thanks, Ros, and welcome again to everyone for the second webinar in this series. Firstly, a quick recap on what we covered in the first session on management commitment, the first step in safety management systems. You need to make sure that everyone is aware of their safety responsibilities, allocate time and money to safety, make safety a priority, and get managers involved in safety initiatives. Managers need to lead by example and also develop a safety policy. And make safety everyone's responsibility. Involve your workers and integrate safety into everything that you do. Only develop what you need and allocate resources such as time, people and money. Strive for continuous improvement and be persistent and don't give up. Now we will go through the second step in developing a safety management system, which as you can see on the screen there is risk management. So firstly, we need to clarify what is a hazard and what is a risk. So a hazard is something with the potential to cause injury, illness or damage to your health. There are many hazards in agriculture. Some have the potential to cause more serious injuries than others, and these are the ones that you need to focus on first. Some of the typical hazards that you may see in beef production are listed on the screen. So things such as riding a horse, riding a quad bike or a motorbike, animal handling, mustering, working in the stockyards, animal and animal-related diseases, and also things such as sun exposure. So what is a risk? Risk is the likelihood that death, injury or illness might result from the hazard. So for example, sharpening a tool with a bench grinder, that creates a hazard of flying metal particles. The injury risk associated with the process is whether those flying medical particles will miss the unshielded eye, enter the outer eye causing discomfort, or even pierce the eye causing blindness. So another example of would be riding a quad bike. This activity presents a number of risks, such as rollover due to hitting unseen objects like rocks or holes, or even going up or down a slope that is too steep. So the risk management process involves the 4 steps set out in the Code of Practice, which is How to Manage Work Health and Safety Risks Code of Practice 2011. A copy of this code can be found on our website, and the address will be provided to you at the end of this webinar. So the 4 steps in the risk management process, as you can see, is Step 1, identify the hazard. Step 2, assess the risk. Step 3, control the risk. And Step 4, review your control measures. So I will now go through each of these steps in the process. So the easiest way to look at risk management is to consider the 3 elements involved in the task, and they are the people, the environment, and also the process. So the people, they are trained, are they competent, do they understand what they have to do, and can they communicate with each other, and have you consulted with them? For the process, what is the task? What plant is being used? Are the risks of using this plant being managed? Am I following the manufacturer's instructions or recommendations on the safe use of the plant? Are there established safe work procedures? And if so, are these up to date when new equipment is introduced, and also look at things like, is guarding in place? When looking at the environment, consider things such as, is it raining or extremely hot? Have I managed the risk of heat stress? Is the work area extremely dirty, greasy or dusty? Are there other people or traffic around? And how can I manage the risk of these interacting? Is the work environment close to the house? And are there water courses, electrical installations or any underground services nearby? Are the yards in good working order with gates that operate properly? So all of these above questions and more need to be asked when assessing the risk. When it comes to managing the risk, you need to have clear answers to these questions and knowledge of the most appropriate legislation or documents to help you to eliminate the risk, or at least reduce the risk so far as is reasonably practicable. So step 1, which is identify the hazard. So you need to inspect the workplace. So go for a walk around, or when you are out on the property, look for any potential hazards such as windmills or temporary fence, and even the conditions of the yard. You can consult with your workers about the tasks that they do and find out if they have any concerns about the aspects of the job. So do they have any suggestions for a better way to do the particular task, and do they feel confident in what they are doing? And also review any available information such as injury and near-miss reports, and talk to your neighbours and see how you are going in comparison to with what they are doing. So as mentioned earlier, there are quite a few common, well-known hazards in beef production, such as riding a horse, riding a quad bike or motorbike, and sun exposure. But there may also be specific hazards on your property, such as terrain, anthills, washouts, and many others. So the hazard identification checklist has been provided for your guidance in the process for identifying any hazards. It is fairly extensive to cover a range of industry sectors, and it was a bit large to put on this slide, but hopefully you have been able to download a copy. If you have, we will also be providing you a copy at the end of this website, and it is also available on the Workplace Health and Safety Queensland website. So what is the hazard? So we've got a picture on the screen here for you now, and just looking at this photo, there are a few main hazards. So I'll just give you a moment just to have a look at that picture and see if you can spot those. So firstly, we have manual handling. We also have awkward postures, and also the handling of the livestock. As we know, the animals can have very unpredictable behaviours. Now step 2 is to assess the risk. So you need to work out the likelihood of the harm occurring. The likelihood that someone will be harmed can be estimated by considering the following aspects. So consider how often are people exposed to the hazard? How long might people be exposed to the hazard? How effective are current controls in reducing the risk? Could any changes in your organisation increase the likelihood? Are hazards more likely to cause harm because of the working environment? And could the way people act and behave affect the likelihood of a hazard causing harm? And finally, do the differences between individuals in the workplace make it more likely for harm to occur also? You can rate the likelihood as one of the following circumstances. It could be certain to occur, which means that it is expected to occur in most circumstances. It may be very likely, which means there will probably occur in most circumstances. It may be possible, which means might occur occasionally, or it could be unlikely, which could happen at some time. Or you may rate that as rare, so may happen only in exceptional circumstances. The level of risk will increase as the likelihood of harm and its severity increases. It is mandatory to complete and keep a copy for your future reference of a risk assessment form for all the identified hazards. So you can see on the screen now there is a template of the risk assessment form. We have sent a copy of the risk assessment template to you, but if you haven't been able to download this, this is what it looks like. Again, we will be sending this to you at the end of the webinar, and it is available on the website. So there are different sections to this, and we'll just go through the headings for you now if you're unable to have a look at your own copy. So at the top we have the company details. We then name the hazard that was identified. You answer the risk assessment questions, and then document the control measures that you're going to use. We then look at who was this implemented by, and then also have the review schedule. So it's important to review all this information, as we do know that the tasks and the environment can change. So on the screen now for you is a template of a risk register. Again, this template was also sent out to you, but all the templates that we do use throughout this webinar series, they will be available on the Workplace Health and Safety website. So a risk register will help you keep track of risks that you have identified and any follow-up work that is required. So this is important that you keep this document up to date, especially for any new equipment or risks that you have identified. The risk assessment form and the risk register will be valuable forms to demonstrate your commitment to workplace health and safety in the case of any serious incident. And that brings us to step 3, which is controlling the risk. So things to consider when deciding on the control measures include the physical environment. So you need to look at the terrain, heat, cold, wet surfaces, any overhead power lines, and anything else that may affect the job in the environment. You also need to consider the nature of the work, the process and the working conditions. Consider if there's any required qualifications, training and any knowledge of the task that is needed prior, and also the nature and severity of any potential injury or disease. So you will hear safety professionals talk about the hierarchy of control for controlling the risks. And the hierarchy of control sets out the highest to lowest levels of protection and the most reliable to least reliable control measures. So this is documented in the Code of Practice, and as you see on the screen, this shows you the level of health and safety protection and the reliability of your control measures. There's level 1, level 2, and level 3. So level 1 is elimination, and this is the highest level of protection. So when you're looking at level 1, you consider can the hazard be totally removed? We know that this is not always possible, especially with the operational tasks like mustering and working in the yards. So then we look at the next level, which is level 2, and that includes substitution, isolation, and engineering controls. So having a look at these two pictures here, this is an example of substitution. So instead of a quad bike, you can substitute a side-by-side vehicle or a utility or even a horse, choosing the most appropriate tool for the job. Looking at this example, it can also be classed as elimination because you are eliminating the quad bike altogether. Now this picture on the screen of the yards is an example of isolation. So the example in beef industry is to look at the yard design to allow the workers to be separated from the cattle while working in the yards. Yards that are designed to promote less stress handling techniques and utilise natural stock movements can provide for quieter and more content cattle, and that also makes livestock handling safer for your employees and your workers. Other design principles for safety and ease of work for the people include self-latching gates, ready access and escape points, surfaces that reduce the risk of trips and falls, and isolation of workers from your cattle. Building a new set of yards, of course, is not always possible, so look for simple solutions to improve the safety of the yards that you already have. An example we were shown by one producer was fitting polypipe over the steel rails, which made it easier for the workers to roll through the rails if they needed to escape in a hurry. This was very simple, but apparently it was also very effective. So on the screen now is another example of isolating a hazard. So shown in these pictures here is a post-hole auger. And as you can see, placing a guard to protect the operator from the moving parts is obviously going to mitigate against any injury to your workers. Now, engineering controls. Erecting shade over the working race in the yards to reduce sun exposure would be considered an engineering control. The previous example of the post-hole auger can also be constituted as engineering, as you have added something to the auger. At the bottom of the table that we've seen previously is the level 3 controls, which is administrative controls. Administrative controls are the lowest level of protection, and they include safe work procedures, training and induction, and also PPE, your personal protective equipment. Remember that PPE is the lowest form of protection and should not be the only form of control. PPE can be used in conjunction with other controls and may be used in some situations as a temporary control until other controls are sorted out. So for an example, the administrative controls for riding a quad bike would be wearing a helmet for long pants and sturdy footwear. Only workers trained in correct riding techniques are allowed to ride them. Having a safe work procedure in place, and they might also be speed limited and have no-go zones identified. Or a higher level of control would be to consider another vehicle. And that brings us to step 4, which is reviewing your control measures. A review of the control measures is very important to ensure it is appropriate, effective, and not exposing workers to other risks. In webinar 3, we will be looking more into developing your controls through the development of safe work procedures. This involves doing a task analysis and then looking at the risks and developing controls for those specific risks. So be sure to tune in for that one to get more information on this. Now, consultation. Consultation is required under the legislation, and this will be a recurring theme throughout all of our webinars in this series. As we discussed in the first webinar, talking to your workers can provide valuable information on how they are completing the tasks and any issues they have identified. So consultation will make the workers more involved and more committed to the process because they actually have buy-in into what is happening within your workplace. So we have provided a hazard management checklist, and this will provide you with some prompts to help with the process and identifying your hazards. You can add or delete relevant items to the checklist to suit your business. And a template, as you can see here on the screen, has been provided to you, but it will also be sent out in the email. And as with all of our templates, they will be available on the Workplace Health and Safety Queensland website. So that brings us to the end of the information that I have. So I'll now hand you back over to Roz, who will go through the final information for you.
Thanks, Brenton. So if you would like to contact us for more assistance or information, or if you have any questions on specific issues, we do have an email address which will give you direct access to the agriculture unit, and that is agriculture@justice.qld.gov.au. The first webinar is now up on the website, www.worksafe.qld.gov.au. And if you have any other queries, please contact the info line 1300 362 128 and ask for your query to be sent through to the agriculture unit. We also have an e-safe. There are 3 rural e-safes each year, and you can subscribe to that on our website. And if you go to the website, you'll look for that e-safe. Details for registration for the next session will be up on the website. So please, and notified on OB's Facebook page. So I would like to thank you very much for attending today's webinar, and we'll send out the slides and templates to everyone who registered as a follow-up, and we look forward to talking to you at the next session. Thank you.